what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Antique Talk. Now, today's episode, we're going to talk about the massive change that's coming and is actually happening right now in the antique and reselling world. But first off, I want to talk about the word antique. Now, I get this a lot in our comment sections of what everybody considers an antique. What is the definition? I get people that tell me it's 100 years old, 25 years old, 50 years old. I mean, there's so many different perspectives on what they consider antique that I don't want to get too crazy into it about, who's right and who's wrong. So I think when we talk about antique or I see an antique item, I know right off the bat it's an older item. So that's kind of what I'm going to base it off with this episode. When I say the word antique, trust me, I'm not trying to say it's 1800s item or 1950s item. I mean, we all can be in an understanding that when we go to an antique shop, rarely is everything in that antique shop 100 years old or sometimes even 50 years old. So let's all get on the same page here and just trust me, when I talk about antique in this video, it's just a significantly older item. So first thing I want to talk about is collecting and trends and what people are buying. Now, being in this business for over 10 years, we see a lot of different trends come and go. I've been in the trend of the cast iron and the Crocs, and I'm always late to the trends. Always, without fail. If everybody's out there and I'm selling tons of Crocs, I'm going to go out there and buy a ton of Crocs. And by the time I buy them, it's already passed and I'm sitting on a ton of Crocs and nobody's buying them. So I'm hopefully doing this with you guys to give you the heads up that I think it's still early on in this trend, that I think you guys can take advantage of it. But when we talk about that, it's really, you're going into what people and why they collect. Now, I always know why people collect because I hear it all the time when they come into the shop. They always try to recapture something they had in their childhood. And it doesn't have to be to collect it. It could be just because it was a better, they use it better now, or it's better used now. Like I had a lady in the other day that always used plastic cups when she was a kid. So when her grandkids were coming over, she bought plastic cups from our shop because they lasted, they could drop, they wouldn't break because her kids were breaking their glasses. The newer stuff was cracking, or the glass was breaking. It just wasn't, wasn't good for her. So what happened was she comes in and she said the exact same thing I've been talking to our vendors about for months now. Oh my God, I just want it back when I was a kid. My grandma had these. I loved them. They lasted. And that's what happens, is people always go back to what they're comfortable with. So when they come in, they're buying what they're comfortable with, what they grew up with, what they know. I mean, when you're in a household for 18 years, there's so many things that get attached to you. Like Amber has this attachment with Tupperware, which is a great, it's great. I love Tupperware. I mean, it saves so much food and it stores things. It's an amazing thing, but she has these things that she picks up that her grandma had or her parents had. And I mean, I'm the same way. When I was a kid, there's things I have here. I have a cookie jar that my grandma had. And it got passed on to me, and I could have easily sold it, but I didn't want to because that meant something to me when I went to her house. I would see it, and that meant something to me. I don't think you guys can see it, but we have clocks all around these houses, or all around our house, I'm sorry. And these clocks mean a lot to me because when I was at my grandparents' house, I remember hearing a grandfather clock. And so when I heard those chimes, which you guys will probably hear during this video at some point, it meant something to me. It always brings me back home. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is we always try to bring back that family, that home aspect, the stuff that makes us feel comfortable. And so that's what we see with trends. And what happened was in the past is you've seen people, it's about, I would say if they were born in the 40s and 50s, they were going to buy what they considered that, made them feel like home. So you're seeing a lot of dishware sell, a lot of glasses sell. You're seeing stuff that they were familiar with because that era never threw anything away. So they had a lot of things that made them feel home and made them feel familiar and made them feel good. I have things in my basement. I'm a video game collector and I'm a sports card collector. Those are things I was around a lot as a kid. I was a huge video game player. I'm an 80s kid. So Nintendo, Sega, all those things were amazing to me. I just loved when the new system came out. It was my favorite thing on Christmas morning, unwrapping my Nintendo or my Sega. I mean, it's some of my biggest and best memories as a child. So now I have 1,200 video games in my basement. I have just about every system. It's because I try to collect things that make me remember that feeling. And so that's what a lot of people are out there doing, is they're out there trying to reclaim that feeling. And so what we really want to get into today is we want to get into what's happening. What is changing and why is it changing? So that is what we're going to get into, is why things are changing right now. And it's a very exciting time because I think it's still early in the process for all you guys, that if you're going to be, really it's mainly reselling, honestly, because you can get into it early. And I'm telling you guys, you can make a lot of money off of this stuff really fast because the change is coming. Antiques ain't going anywhere. We all know it's not going anywhere. The change is just happening. So let's get into what that change is. All right, so being an owner of an antique shop, you see so many things. And even my friends that come into our shop, and my friends are in their 30s and sometimes early 40s, and they come in and they're like, oh man, I did not think this was what an antique shop was. And it's not that the antiques are different, it's just what people considering antiques are different. And that's what's happening, and that is the change. It's no longer being dictated by the 30s, 40s and 50s children. It's getting dictated by the people born in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So that is what's happening, is the younger people are starting to come in and they're starting to dictate that market, and they're coming in to buy what they consider antiques. Now that's where the argument I was talking about earlier, where we're not gonna have the argument about antiques, but that's what these guys are considering old. They consider this like old stuff, the, vintage records and vintage video games and toys and clothing. I mean, my daughters are into the style. It's all that 70s style, the crop tops, the high-waisted jeans, bell bottoms, pants. I mean, dad only wears one thing, and that's, a 66 unique antique shirt and jeans. You will always see me in jeans, a t-shirt, or jeans and a hoodie. That is what I always wear, and it's always an antique shirt, never any different. I'm pretty bland. And what I talk about with clocks, my clocks are going off right now, so I apologize for that. But that is what the change is happening, guys. And if you want to get on board with it, now is the time. Yes, it's not going to be, you're not before everybody else, because the change is starting to happen. People are seeing it, and prices are starting to go up, not just with gas and everything else. I'm talking about the antique part. So that part I'm talking about is like records. Records we used to sell for anywhere from $3 to $5 that are now turning into $10 to $15, because that's who's trying to rebuild their collection, as those children born in the 70s and 80s when records were crazy. I mean, vintage clothing. My daughter, middle child, Lily, is always looking for vintage clothing. So she's looking for those sweaters and those, just to me, sorry, Lily, ugly colors, the yellows, the oranges, and the browns. Those are that's what's in style, and so that's what they're looking for. So selling vintage clothing, vintage concert shirts from the 80s, Metallica shirts, and all these other ones, start looking those up. If you come across those at your Goodwills or yard sales, buy them. They are crazy right now. People are making livings off buying just t-shirts, old Bugle Boy, Levi, denim jackets. I'm telling you guys, that is what's happening. Toys. You're looking at Star Wars toys from the 70s, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff from the 80s. Really start looking at the price of these. They've gone up like crazy. When personally, I only talk about personal experience, but like video games. When I got into collecting video games back in the 70s, 7-8 years ago, it was, I was buying stuff for really good prices, I thought. And now the prices have gone up about 150% because people are starting to see, oh my God, I can go get my old Nintendo or my old Sega or my old PlayStation, and they want it back. And like I said, in my basement, I'm full of that stuff. And luckily I got into most of it before everybody else did, but that's just something I was into. But what we're starting to see now is everybody's starting to get into that. I mean, we have children, kids in the 20s and 30s that are coming into our shop, and you can tell when they walk in the door, they're just like, ugh. They either got dragged here by a spouse or a mom and dad or whatever it was. And by the time they make one trip around, they're starting to see it too. Not everything in an antique store is antique. There's a lot of really good stuff in there that they were like, oh my God, I didn't even know this would be in here. I had that when I was a kid. And it's so funny to see that, because we hear that from 50s, 60s, 70-year-olds a lot. It's like, oh my God, you guys had this vase. My grandma had this vase. It means so much to me, this pattern. And it's always cool to hear it. I love just being sure that stuff like that goes to right homes like theirs. But now it's just the younger kids are starting to get into it. So you're seeing 30, 40s, year olds that are coming into the shop like, oh my gosh, my dad used to listen to this Guns N' Roses record all the time. My mom used to have this flowery shirt, or these old pieces of glass, or just Tupperware, or the hard plastic glasses, or whatever you want to pick out from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The grinders, the beaters, you can have houseware. There's so many things that people are coming in like, And the number one quote I hear is, oh my God, I am getting so old because the stuff I grew up with is in an antique store. And that's what's happening. And that's where you got to get on board. You have to get on board. If you're going to be looking to resell, this is the time to do it. Get out there and try to find these items, because I'm telling you, this is the market that's coming. These are the people that are going to be turning your antique store into what it turns out to be, 20, 30 years from now. Because that's, no matter what business you're in, the customers dictate what the business is. If nobody's going to buy something from Walmart, Walmart's going to go into something else. If you're not going to, buy something at my antique store, man, I better find out what you're buying, because that's what's going on. That's what I need to always have, because if you're not going to come to my store and buy nothing, I'm not going to be in store very long. I'm not going to be in business. So that's what we need to do, and that's what's happening. So that's what we're starting to do, and I'm telling you guys, this last year has been absolutely amazing, because we're starting to pick up these things that the older generation doesn't either want to get into, because that generation is stubborn. They are. I'm sorry, but they are. They're stubborn and they don't want to, and they don't want to adjust to what's happening. And that's what's happening. You guys, when you guys go to an antique store in 20, 30 years, it's not going to look the same as the antique store does now, or a vintage store, a thrift store, whatever you want to call them. They're not going to look the same as they do now, because that's not what's selling. That's not who's looking to buy things. So that is what you need to get into, and that's what you got to start doing. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how to take advantage of what the change is, and how to make sure you guys, either, remain profitable if you're looking to resell, or get into collecting it before the prices get way too high, because I'm telling you, that's what's coming. The prices are going to get really high. And I'm not talking about gas, not talking about like that. I'm talking about only antiques. I don't want to get into other stuff, because that's never a thing I will talk about. But I'm talking about when prices go up in the antiquing world and the reselling world. So let's get into what exactly you can do to capitalize on that. All right, so how to take advantage of this change and how to capitalize and hopefully make yourself some extra money. First thing you want to do is start in. Start in, then go out. So when I say start in, family and friends, your closest to you. Talk to mom and dad, grandma and grandpa. Maybe they held on to some of your stuff in the attic, or maybe they held on, your friends as parents, they held on to some of their stuff. Always go in first. See what people have, because you never know. Some people held on to stuff just because they thought their kids might want it down the line. And obviously if they didn't, or, that's, something that's always first is always start local, because that's going to be the easiest and the most cost effective, rather than traveling far or paying a lot of money for shipping. Next step is going to be garage sales. Now this again is the same reasoning, because a lot of times kids move out of the house. They don't, the parents don't want to hold on to the stuff no more, so they throw it in the garage sale for really good prices. Just go back to one thing I had happen last year is I bought 2 Pokemon DS games still in the case for $5 a piece at a garage sale, sold them both for $170 a piece on eBay. So again, you got to be on the lookout for this stuff, and you got to get educated. That's with anything. I talk about in our Collecting 101 videos all the time. You got to educate yourself on whatever you're going to get into. So if you're going to get into certain things, you don't need to know everything, but even a little bit of knowledge is going to go a long way, especially being this early in the change. I'm telling you, the more you know now is just going to make it even light years ahead of, 2-3 years from now. So yeah, after garage sales, then you're going to want to hop into like flea markets. Now, flea markets, again, are just like garage sales, but again, they're a little tougher because some people do know what they have. But that's the next step is the flea markets. I'm telling you, you can still get some really good deals at flea markets when you're still looking for the newer stuff, because, again, people like to rent out spots and just get rid of stuff. That's what they're there for. Not many people, there's people that do it obviously for a living, but a lot of people too just rent spots out to get rid of stuff. It happens at ours all the time. Again, speaking of ours, May 7th, we have a flea market at our store. It's a really big flea market. We got food, stores packed, a little shameless plug. I apologize, but stop out and see us. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun for that one, and you get double the shopping. So yeah, after flea markets, that's when you get into like auctions, or even Facebook marketplaces. I'll add those two together. Auctions are probably going to be your better bet, because Facebook marketplace is kind of turned into a smaller scaled eBay, where prices are pretty high and it's pretty tough to get a lot of great deals. But again, still look on there every now and then. You never know if someone's selling a lot of records, or, bags of clothing, vintage clothing that you might be able to get a couple of good pieces out of. So like I said, don't ever, discount Facebook Marketplace, but I've just noticed that's kind of trended towards a miniature eBay. But yeah, auctions. Now, obviously, a lot of people that go to auctions, there is younger people that go to auctions, but I will say the majority of the crowd is the older generation. And that generation, again, like I said, is stubborn, that doesn't want to learn new stuff. They're happy with what they know. And if you go to there and you find stuff that's in that 60s, 70s, and 80s, you know, category, I'm telling you, you'll be able to make out really well, because I've done it at auctions before too, and I'm telling you, you know, they don't, you know, the more knowledge you have, it's a lot easier at auctions. So yeah, guys, I really hope this video is going to help you guys out and get you guys ahead of the game on what change is coming, because as much as you want to fight it, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. So just get, you know, the faster you can get into it and get going on it and educate yourself on what the trend is and what the changes are happening and what's getting to be popular and what are, you know, people are out there buying, the better off it's going to be and the more money you're going to make. Because I'm telling you, this change is going to be exciting for me, because it's starting to get into the stuff I grew up with, which I have more knowledge on than the stuff that, you know, it's from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, which I have a lot of knowledge on, but, you know, it's a lot easier to grow up with it to get the knowledge and get that firsthand knowledge rather than trying to, you know, learn it from somebody else that grew up with it. So, I mean, it's just easier for me. But yeah, guys, I'm really hoping you guys got a lot of value out of this. I'm really hoping you guys take me for my word. I'm telling you, I've been in the antique business for a long time. It is now, you know, the time to get into this change, and, you know, hopefully it'll make you guys some money. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you guys like the video, hit the like button. There you go. Pretty easy. And then comment below. What do you guys think about this change that's happening? Do you guys disagree with me? Do you agree with me? Just throw it in the comment section. Let's have a great conversation, and let's throw, you know, as much insight out there as we can. Let's have, you know, let's all educate each other on what's happening, and maybe we all can make some extra money in 2022, because, you know, it sounds like we're going to need it. So, but yeah, and then after that, guys, I want to shout out again to appraiseitnow.com. These guys are our new sponsors for our channel. Hop on and use this link right here, and you guys get appraisals for $25, any item back within 48 hours. I got mine back in 6 hours. So you never know, it could be really soon, but I'm telling you guys, these guys have appraisers all over the world that are experts and can give you expert appraisals in less than 48 hours. You cannot beat them. So like I said, use that link below, help support the channel. So, and then of course, if you guys get some time and you like what we're doing here, smash that subscribe button. Tons of content coming up, auction videos, collecting videos. I mean, we have so much we do on this channel that we love educating each other and, you know, making this great community that we're building together. So, and if you guys get some time, like I said, May 7th, we have a flea market. And if not, you just want to come out and visit our shop, me and Amber are always there. You're always going to see one of us. Come out and see us and get your antique fix on M66. See you guys later.